Hello! The TBM 850 has been released for Microsoft Flight Simulator. It's developed by Black Square and is being sold by Just Flight. So I just went over to their store and bought a copy, and here it is in the simulator. I thought we might have a look around it before we take it for a fly. And I have to say, the quality of the modelling of this aircraft is among the best I've seen in the simulator, if not the best. It's worth shouting out. This is the first model that Black Square have made themselves, and it really is something else. The quality of the material and 3D structure modelling around the aircraft is something else. It is next level compared to just about anything else I've seen in the simulator. So you can look for polygons. You're going to have a hard job finding them. Obviously you are going to find them, but just the level of detail and attention and care that's gone into this is just amazing. So if we go and drop down into the cabin, you can see inside has been modelled wonderfully as well. So if we come down into the gauges and the dials and the switches, just it's next level everywhere. The level of quality is just stunning. Just have a slow pan around. I am so impressed with it. It's just, it's incredible really. Okay, so let's go away from the drone camera and jump back into the normal pilot's eye view. I'll put my Xbox controller down and we'll have a look around. Okay, so dragging around with the mouse and wheeling around. One of the first things to look at, I guess, is some of the 3D structures they've modelled within the aircraft. So if we go and unlock a door, everything has sounds. And you can see that the animations are just wonderful, even as far as things like footsteps, and it's fantastic, isn't it? And doors and windows are affecting the sound coming into the cockpit, as you would expect. It's really, really nicely done. So the same is true of the door at the back. That's all animated as well. So if we go and unlock it, it's a gull wing door. And once the door is open, we can open the steps, and they're all lovely animations as well on display. And then we can go and grab the handle and pull it back down again. It's really, really well done, isn't it? Okay, so how do we get this airplane up and running? It's not actually too difficult. So I've written up a checklist. I'll put the checklist in the notes. So this is about me validating the checklist as well before we take it for a fly. So the checklist just goes through the basic steps required to go from cold and dark to an engine running and go and take off. But as you can see, there are hundreds and hundreds of steps of different phases that you can run through that are built into the aircraft, and all of the controls referenced by the steps are targeted by those steps, so they all highlight, so it makes it dead easy to go and step through and refresh your memory. Okay, so first things first, we're going to go overhead and we're going to pull up this crash lever, and then we're going to put the generator on main and the source of power to battery, and you can see the voltmeter flicks across over there, which is great. Then just above there, you're going to go and turn on the oxygen, and then we're going to go back down to the co-pilot instrument panel, and we're going to turn the radio master switch to on, which is down here, and that will power up lots of bits and pieces around the aeroplane. We're going to turn the fuel selector to auto, which is up here. Then back overhead, we're going to go and turn all of the gyros. Oh, sorry, no, nav lights on first, sorry. Getting ahead of myself. And now we can go and configure the flight plan if we want to. You could do this later, but we'll do it right now because it's only a very short flight plan we're going to do. So we can also, we're just waiting for the GPS to boot up as well, so we can let that capture satellites, and then we'll go and program on the GTN 750 over here. So we've got a 530 and a 750. So we're going from EGTB, which is Wycombe Air Park or Booker Airfield, and we're going to fly over to Elstree, so it's a really short flight, so EGTR. So set destination, Echo Golf Tango Romeo, enter, and we'll put the Bovingdon VOR in the middle of the plan. So insert the BNN. It says duplicates found, enter. It will list the BNNs in the database. We want Bovingdon at the top, so it should appear in the middle after a moment. There we go. So that's our flight plan done. So we can now see the magenta line on the map, which is perfect. We could zoom out a bit if we wanted to. Okay. So we're going to go through the engine start sequence next. So the first thing we're going to do is advance the propeller lever to max RPM. Then we're going to go on the co-pilot side of the instrument panel and turn the auxiliary boost pump to automatic. Then we're going to go overhead with control 5 and we're going to turn the ignition to auto, the starter to on. And we're going to come back down into the cockpit and you'll see the propeller start to move. The master cautions are absolutely normal. So what we're watching here is the NG gauge. When it gets to 13%, which it's just done, we can advance the fuel condition to low idle. And it will continue on round as the aircraft fires up and the propeller starts spinning. When it gets to 50%, we can turn the starter off and then we can go for high idle. So it's just got to 50%. So the starter can come off now and we can go for high idle. Okay, so control 5 and then we can go and turn all the gyros on. Or the gyro instruments I should say. So then control 1 and we can come down and turn the inertial separator on. And then over on the co-pilot side in the ECS section we can go and turn the EFIS master to on. Oh sorry, no, bleed, sorry, bleed to auto. I'm misreading my instructions. Air condition to on. So bleed to auto, air condition to on, and set the cabin climb rate, and you do that just by making this arrow point upwards. Then control 1, we go and do the EFIS master. So we turn this switch on and this powers up these screens and you hear like a whistly noise. I have seen a little bit of a bug, and I think it's a simulator bug. If you do a restart, so via the escape key, and come back into the aircraft and run through this again, this might not fire up. So I've seen that happen once. Okay, so we would then set the flaps as required if we need to. Control 1. We need to go and set the pitot heats, so that's those down there. We can go and set the transponder to on now. We'll do that. And then we go and set the lights as required for the aeroplane. So we've got nav lights on already. So if we taxi out to the runway, we'll go and put the taxi light on. And we'll see how we get on. So I'll turn the parking brake off. We'll get rid of that master caution light. So all it's saying now is the auxiliary boost pump is on at the moment. So that's over here. Yeah, if we put it onto auto, that light will go out. And we'll increase the rev slightly. We're off the parking brake. Just making sure that we're actually off the parking brake. We are now. It takes a little while for the engine to spool up. So it can be deceiving. Okay, so if I turn on head tracking now and center us up, there we go. So we can get a good look around. So I'm just going to go and press the CDI button to put this into GPS guidance mode. So you get, as well as the GPS and everything, you get a combined HSI CDI digital version and attitude indicator. You've also got a standard attitude indicator over here. It's really nicely done. Okay, so I'm going to open the engine up. I'm not using flaps for the takeoff because I want to see what happens. I want to see how it behaves. So we're going to rotate. We're in the air. It's moving around a little bit, but it's a bit windy today, so gear comes up. Let's have a look at that happening. Very nice. You can see it's quite windy today. We're being pushed around quite a lot. Okay, let's just check the volume levels. See if you can hear me. You can only just hear me over it, can't you? So I'm going to turn the aeroplane down a bit. So we've got a message on the GPS. Set course. So you get all sorts of lights coming on to tell you things are happening, which is all well and good. So what we'll do is we'll turn around. We're going to pull the propeller and the throttle back. We can turn off that inertial separator now. Put the yoke back on. And we're good to go. We didn't actually go and put the strobes on, did we? Good job we're not doing a real flight. Be told off by now. Okay, so we're heading off towards the Bovingdon VOR, so let's just trim the nose slightly. So we're just above 2,000 feet at the moment. Did I calibrate the altimeter? No, I didn't. So I have done now. Need to put a note for that on the checklist just to remind myself to do it. So we could, if we wanted to, go and we can press the heading marker, which makes us go in that direction. So if we press heading, we need to turn autopilot on first. That would be an idea, wouldn't it? Now there's a master power switch for the autopilot. Let me just trim this out. It's starting to turn all of its own accord. Oh, and the simulator is now frozen just to help us. There we go. It's come back. Let's get the yoke out of the way. So the autopilot master switch is down here. And we can put the autopilot on now. He says, famous last words. Why is that not working? There we go. It just takes a second to fire up. Then heading mode. So we can play with the various modes, and it all works as you would imagine it should. So if we went and used the altitude pre-selector over here and say we want to, let me just turn off the head tracking so we can do this accurately. So let's say we wanted 3,500 feet. Yeah, and we want to get there at, see, it's as simple as that. It works, it just works. So if we arm that, we can't arm it because we're too close to it. But it's just very, very straightforward. If we went to nav mode, it's going to crab back across to the flight plan, which is absolutely perfect. And that's because we are on the GPS mode. And I think this is synchronized between them. Interestingly, that this is not showing the magenta line. Now, is that just because? No, it hasn't transferred the flight plan, has it? So if we look in here and go to flight plan, yeah, it has nothing in here. So this is not showing the same flight plan as the 750. That's a bit of a shame. So we're just approaching the Bovingdon VOR. Some weather around today, isn't there? We've got another message. Arrival at the waypoint. Yeah, thanks for that. So let's drop back down to 2,500 feet, shall we? Let's do it using the... or to 2,000 feet even. Using the pre-selector. So we'll come down at 600 feet a minute. You can see that's doing it there. And we're making the turn towards Elstree. Something that is quite good about this is we can change this screen to show the numbers. Oh, actually no, because this doesn't have the flight plan look, so we'd have to make do with this one. So you can see the countdown of the distance. You can always change the numbers on these though. I don't know if you've ever seen this. You can go to change fields and say instead of track up here, it would be good if we could have estimated time array time to waypoint. Would be good, wouldn't it? And then that's fine, and go back. So then you get ETE as well as distance, which is perfect. The weather radar is here. It's on by default. It has got a hidden menu. It's got the damage simulation, as many of the other Black Square aircraft have got. It's very good. Obviously there's lots of lighting that works as you would imagine it should. It's just very, very good. Everything about the aircraft is very, very good. So we can see Elstree in the distance in front of us. So we're going to loop around and come back in. So we haven't done actually much hand flying yet, so shall we do that now? So autopilot off, and you can see suddenly the wind is kicking us around immediately. Okay, so we'll fly around the back of the airfield and do a left circuit into the runway. So come back into the wind. You can see you've got wind indication on the digital instruments here. It's very cool. You get lots of information, but not too much. It's really cool as well how you get the mixture of glass screens and gauges. I really like that. Okay, there's Elstree. Okay, so if I turn the head tracking back on and we press F and F12 a couple of times to center it up, that's just the key I have programmed into it to do that for us. So we just come out over the edge of town here. This aeroplane is very slick. It doesn't like losing speed. So I've pulled the RPM and the manifold pressure back, or not manifold pressure, this is a turboprop, isn't it? So I pulled the torque and the RPM back just to give us some wiggle room. Let's get the gear down, put the landing lights on, put the taxi light on as well. Flaps out now. So, disclaimer, I have not landed this yet. So, oh, simulator has paused again. It's not having a good day, is it? It's a lovely looking aeroplane, isn't it? So I better start concentrating, haven't I? Okay. So we've got a bit of a crosswind, but not too... Well, actually, no, it's quite a severe crosswind. Got 15, 16 knot winds. It's gusting a little bit, but not too badly. So just looking at the VASI lights there, we're a bit high. So we're just going to drop down until we get one red and one white. Keeping an eye on the indicated airspeed. We really are being thrown around by that wind. Okay, so preparing to straighten us up onto the runway, dip the left wing slightly, and we're down. Get back onto the centre line. Quite an eventful flight, quite bumpy. More eventful than we would have liked for a first flight to try the aeroplane out. So flaps can come up. And we'll taxi back along the grass. But yeah, it's a fantastic aeroplane. It really is. It's going to have all sorts of fun learning it. So the landing lights can come off. Let's have a look at it from outside as we taxi in, shall we? Try and get round by the control tower. Go and park in the customs parking space. Okay, parking brake on. We should be able to cut the mixture back to shut the engine down. Ah, wrong way. This is part of the problem with head tracking. It's not always as accurate as you might like it to be. So obviously there's a reverse checklist to shut things down properly, but we're not going to worry too much about doing things in absolutely the right order. But yeah, what a wonderful aeroplane though, hey? They really have. The attention to detail throughout the aeroplane is actually quite stunning. I'm amazed by it, to be honest. And there's obviously a lot to play with in terms of failures and modelling of all the things you can do with it. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there, and I'll see you again soon. Okay.